Hey guys, Tim here again from Cigar City Garage. It's Christmas morning. I thought I'd come in here. Connie and I are gonna celebrate upstairs. Sister-in-law is coming and her brother. We're gonna cook some burgers on the griddle, and I thought I'd make a video this morning while I was here hanging out and ramble on a little bit more about some of this junk we're working on and give you some more tips and tricks. So here we go. We'll talk a little bit about the Henry J again. You guys saw the front end, it was all put together, and I thought I'd give you a view of this with the front end and the motor out of it and everything. We're just starting tin work in it, and then when we're done talking about that, I think my next video I'm going to talk about driver location, pedal location, steering, stuff like that. This stuff's all pretty important. You got to be able to work all this stuff to drive it, and you need to be comfortable doing it. So get up here in the front end. You can see, like through here, you can see the drag link and the tie rod. Talking about parallelism, that's, you know, sort of hard to tell with the camera, but they're parallel. And then how I attach them over there on that side, I'll show you over here. I use these little cone spacers here to attach everything, and I've got longer and shorter ones that I've made, stuff like that, to space this. So these are aluminum. I've not had any issues with them. And here's a little bit better view, top view of the steering arm, how it works. I mean, you can see I'm probably an inch away from the wheel, but there's some deeper dish wheels that are a little closer than that, so I just tried to find a happy medium. And then, you know, looking at it this way, it's sort of kind of pointing towards the rear end of the car between that bolt and the kingpin center line, to try to get some Ackerman in it. We talked about Ackerman last video. Again, shock mount on the axle, and then the shock mount up top. And like I say, a 5-inch stroke. I use the AFCOS, as I said in a previous video. This one gets Competition Engineering 3-way adjustables, but then in the bottom, it's a 2-inch axle, and I use this kit from Speedway. I buy the whole spring package. Comes with the perch, the bolts, the rear spring mount, and then the front spring mount. You can mount them either way. I explained why I do it this way, but I've had a guy tell me this summer that he had to turn his around because the steering was pushing the car around, you know. But it was a side steer, and that sort of doesn't make sense to me. But therein, here's the steering box mount. I'll get around here a little better where you can see it. How I mounted this one on the frame. And in hindsight, I wish I'd have used a drop steering arm, but my concern were the motor mounts, and that ended up being a non-issue. As you can see, that steering shaft goes up to the bottom of the column, and I'm going to point some stuff out on that. If I'd had a dropped arm, I could have raised this box up probably another inch or so. That top bolt was over the top of the frame rail like it is on the Falcon. So, but like I say, I was sort of worried about motor mount issues because, like I'd said before, I'm trying to make these cars universal, so that if they want to take this big block out and put a small block in it, they can just change this cross member and we can put different motor mounts on it. So we still got some holes to drill in the bottom and weld some nuts in the frame. It gets like two in the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. Another thing I do with these dealios here, I'll try to show you this piece here. Set it on this tire. This is a spring jig. I use this jig to mount my springs. It is, I determine my wheel center line first, which, as you can see on this frame rail, there's a little black mark there. That was axle center line originally, where I started. And then this jig has a center line on it right there. And what happens, getting you all seasick here, up, it goes this way. That end bolts in there, and then this perch goes inside of there, up here, and then you line that mark up on the jig back here with the line on the frame, and that gets everything so your wheelbase is square in the front. And the only reason I use this is I've do a bunch of these kind of cars, so it's a little easier for me to get that done. But if you're building one car, the key is that you want a little bit of forward angle on that perch, so when it sets down it's level, or so it's plumb, I mean. So yeah, me complaining about plumb and level, so that perch is plumb when the car is loaded, so they can go through half travel arc, as I've talked before in videos. So another thing I want to talk about in this video is steering. To me, this stuff is super important. Do not, I repeat, in a drag car, do not use solid 3/4 inch rod. All you're doing is making a spear. You crash the front end and fold the car up, and then the steering shaft wants to poke through your chest. Not a good thing. As you'll notice in this car, I've got a 1.25 inch 058 tube in a nylon bushing. The bushings come from UB Machine in New Haven, Indiana, just like the pedal assemblies do. And they're clamped in, so it will break away in case of an accident. It's got a similar clamp up top. And I don't use hose clamps, I use a band clamp. Hose clamps are illegal, so just use a band clamp, but that way this thing will break away in an accident and not impale you. So, I mean, I've seen them fold steering wheels in half before. Seen some pretty nasty accidents. Therein, I use like a sweet style joint. I don't like those little cross and trunnion cheapos. And I think I might have one here, but I get these from Speedway as well. That one fits on the Vega box. And what I want you to notice, I'm going to turn the shaft this way. If you look at the joints in the shaft, I'm going to go up there. Those joints are timed together, and that's really important in steering. Since you're running compound angles with this stuff, it is really important that those joints line up with each other when you weld the shaft together. If they don't, they'll stick. The steering will bind every 90 degrees, and you don't want that. I drill them up top and put a 1/4 inch bolt through them. And I'm not finished with this one yet, but typically I'll use a nylock nut and I'll drill it and safety wire it to hold it on at the top. And I also try not to leave any clearance between the joint and the top of the bottom of this steering column, okay? The reason why I do that is you don't want this joint to slip off of this box. I've seen guys leave a bunch of clearance up on the top, and that little bolt will come loose right there, slide off, and there's no steering in the car. I have seen that happen. This is not finished for me. Typically I'll put a nylock and a regular bolt here, and I'll drill the bolt head with like a 3/32 hole, and I'll put safety wire on it. Like I say, I'll either cotter pin that one up there and safety wire it, and I'll do the same thing down here. That stuff's super important to me. And on my front end, you'll notice there's no lock nuts on this stuff now, but when they're done, I typically try to use like a top lock nut versus a nylock on steering stuff. Pretty important. Like I say, next video I'm going to talk about pedals. I've talked about them before, but now that these are all installed in the car and everything, I want to give you some tips there. Seat placement, stuff like that. So, and on this car, I'll show you a little bit of what's going on. Ronnie and I are working on, mostly Ronnie, putting the wheel tubs in. He's welded adapter flanges in for the tubs. They're not finished yet. They need to be cut off and dressed up, but he's got a real good start on putting the wheel tubs in them. And the way that they'll work is that flange welds on right there, as you can see, and then we will drill and rivet through this way on the tub, and then he's made this adapter down here to catch the sheet metal inside the car. I'll go around the other side and show you. He's got to do the same thing here, but you can get a better look inside the car this way. See, he's building that piece in there to catch the aluminum for the floors. He's doing a really good job. good at this stuff. So, a little bit about what's going on in here. We got cars moved around, as you could probably tell in the video. We put these things on the lift to do the tin work because it's easier than laying on our back. So we got everything pretty much mounted in here. Fuel pump mount, battery mounts, all that stuff. She's going pretty good. In the Falcon, I started working on fixing the quarter panels because they were so bad. Got sidetracked because I needed to borrow a set of slip rolls. Well, I borrowed slip rolls from my buddy Rory. They're about 4 foot in the air and wouldn't move, so I shortened it way up. I shortened it down to a 36-inch center and then put the casters on it so it's not top heavy. Easier to use. You can actually reach the handle. So I needed that to put the curve, put this curve in the quarter panel. Like as you can see in the tail light area, it's not a flat panel, and I've got an anvil, a pipe anvil to do it, but it leaves little tiny creases in it, and it's harder to do bodywork that way. So I wanted to borrow his slip rolls just to get that done. And I've been working on my 55. I had to get it done, get it off the lift. It was in the way, and I know it's dark in there, but I got the floors painted, top and bottom to the firewall. Roll cages, roll bars in it, painted. And I got the tin work in the back. You can see a little bit of that. That's all done. Then I got the trunk done. You say you're looking in a dark cavern, but fuel cells mounted, battery mount. I put a nitrous bottle mount in on the side and a little shutoff switch over there. And then I started putting the motor in, and that's one of the things I wanted to show you too. We've talked about previously, headers. These are a set of Patriot headers I bought for this car to put a big block in, and I know shouldn't have done that, but when you got big blocks, you use big blocks. But what I talked about before, right there, you got to make the headers clear, and it's easier to do that than it is to build a $1,500 set of headers. These I got actually with gift certificates from Summit, because Summit helps our Scott Rods group immensely. They're great sponsors, and we get gift certificates for longest burnout, #1 qualifier, and end of points. I got these headers with my gift certificates. So versus building them, and think about it, these are the same thing like I used on Rory's Henry J. Is this same type of header. This header brand new is only $300. You can have them coated, get them HPC coated or jet hot coated or whatever, and you got a really nice set of headers that you don't have 3 months worth of savings in. So that's why I do what I do. Unfortunately, with this car, I had to cut giant holes in the firewall to get it in, which easy enough for me to fix. I can do it. We're going to put a smaller valve cover. By the way, Nye's Racing Engines, that's who helps me out. Pat and his family's been great help for me racing for a long time. Got to give them props because they are great people and great friends. So, but herein, I had to notch the cross member because of the big oil pan I got on it, and build custom mounts to get those headers where I want them. But to me, that was easier than, I can do this for a few $100s worth of stuff, versus buying all the parts. And I don't like to build headers out of mild steel tubing, but these are free. Plus I got on top of it, I got an 18 circuit painless harness for this car with my gift certificates. So, hey, I'm happy with it all. That's what's going on. Like I say, in the Falcon, as you can see, this is how bad this side was. They bent that lip on there and made an absolute mess of this part of the body. So it's got some road rash or some concrete wall rash there that I gotta fix. But I'm gonna get that done, and then I'm gonna cut the cowl up. We got this cowl sticking out here in the way. I'm gonna cut that off and dress that up, And then this one will be ready for tin work. So that's what I got going on. I figured I'd share all this with you guys and wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching.